Hi everyone, my name is Claudia. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a different type of video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my experience with OCD. I originally planned to talk about pure OCD, but after doing some research I decided not to talk about pure OCD. So this video will be divided into two parts. In the first part, I'm gonna be talking about my personal story with OCD, and the second part, I'm gonna be talking about the things that have and haven't helped me in my journey, my never-ending journey with OCD. So, let's get started. Where did OCD start for me? I think I was pretty much born with it. OCD has a genetic component. Now I'm gonna tell you a very significant memory, one of the first memories that I have of my OCD. I think I was around maybe 2 or 3 years old when this happened. The story goes like this. I saw a Mickey Mouse plushie on the street and I was instantly obsessed with it. I wanted the Mickey Mouse plushie. I really wanted it. So I went on and on and on about the plushie for an entire day. Night came, I went to sleep, and my parents, who were reasonably tired, thought that I would forget about the plushie the next day, right? But no, I didn't forget about the plushie. I woke up the next morning, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Where's Mickey?" My parents realized that something was wrong, because that wasn't normal, quote unquote, right? Because most kids are able to just forget about something that they get obsessed about, right? But I couldn't. I just couldn't let it go. When something entered my mind, it wouldn't leave. My obsessions shifted depending on the stage I was at life. My very first strong obsession occurred in middle school, when I was around 7, 8 years old, maybe. The obsessive thoughts I remember more vividly and that really impacted my life started there. And they were centered around my classmates, specifically the girls in my class, the girls that I wanted to be friends with. I'm essentially an introvert. I've always been a shy kid. I can be very awkward in groups of people. My personality really influenced this obsession, really made me super self-conscious and super worried about what others thought of me. So what I would do is I would ask my mom these questions, seeking reassurance, right? Which is very typical of OCD, but I didn't know that at the time. I would seek reassurance about whether or not my classmates would say hi to me or talk to me. The problem of doing this is that it doesn't really matter what your parents say to you, because other people's actions are unpredictable, right? There's no way to know if they are going to say hi to you or not. So it didn't matter what my mom told me. I just became more and more anxious because I just couldn't know. I couldn't be sure, right? Which is another very typical thing of OCD, that you can't be sure of something, and that makes you really anxious because you feel you have to be sure about that thing, but you can't. So this negative cycle started in my head. And I would ask, I would get frustrated because the answers wouldn't satisfy me, so I would keep asking, and the cycle would repeat itself, and it would lead anywhere. This affected my concentration. It pretty much affected my entire life, but impacted my concentration the most, because I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't give my 100% to anything, because part of my mind was always cycling and running around thinking about these questions I had. So my grades suffered. I was very irritable. I got frustrated easily. I had anger issues. And all of that, I'm pretty sure that was pretty much influenced by my OCD. So my parents decided to take me to a psychologist because they saw that I wasn't okay. And then was when I got diagnosed with OCD at the age of 8. I didn't understand it at the time, really. I was like, okay, what the hell is OCD? I don't understand this. I'm just I just have questions, I have things I want to know. What's the problem? I don't have any problem. I didn't understand it, and it took me a really long time to understand that what OCD was. Moving on to high school, the obsession I previously had disappeared, right? Because I stopped seeing those people. But, like I said, my obsessions shifted depending on the stage of life I was at. So, I became obsessed with the people in my high school. But not only with the people in my high school, but with other things, like, I don't know, questions, random questions I would have, but yeah, most of it was centered around the people. But I didn't want to think about my OCD. I just forgot that I got diagnosed with OCD. I just went on with my life like I had no problem at all. It just was a very anxious kid, and that was it. But the problem with this is that if you don't do anything about a problem you have, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will come a point in your life in which you will have to face it by force. The problem will be so big and so unbearable that you will have to face it. That moment would come later for me, but it would definitely come. High school was a blur because I was so obsessed and so focused on myself that I barely concentrated. I barely got through it. My grades were really bad. I lashed out at people. I wasn't a good friend. I wasn't there for my friends or family. I wasn't there. I was just in my head all the time, worried about some guy, some girl, some situation, living in my fantasy world made out of scenes from High School Musical or Camp Rock, and hating my life because my life wasn't like that. So yeah, I basically lived in my head all the time. After I finished high school, I had to move from where I had been living to a completely different place, a little village. So around the time was when OCD hit me like a truck, because my obsessions completely shifted. I mean, it's not like I stopped caring about what people thought of me, but the obsessions became all centered on me. I was the focus of every kind of obsession that I had at the time. So I became really, really worried about all these questions that I had never thought about before. So I became really, really obsessed about who I am, who am I, what am I doing, what do I really want, what are my values, because that was the time, around 2016, that I started getting into personal growth. I started watching channels that I really like Lavender or Michelle B and people like that, and they really made me think about things, about life and myself and all of that, and I was like, I don't know anything. Who am I? What am I doing? What I really want to do with my life and all of those things. And I was like, I don't know anything. I don't know a thing. So what do I do now? I don't know where to turn. I'm lost. I felt lost, like inside a maze, you know. I was in a maze, and all my questions were all the different paths in that maze, and I was like, I don't even know where to begin getting out of this maze. And this may seem simple, like, yeah, no one really knows anything, but when that realization really came to me, I was scared. I would wake up every day with anxiety. I would lose appetite. I would find it really difficult to speak because my words wouldn't come out of my mouth. I would overthink everything, every little thing I would say. It would be so difficult to say it because I would be thinking about which words to use, how to use them. It was very, very, very difficult time for me. I felt like I was drowning all day, basically. The questions kept hammering in my head, and I had no idea what to do. So I started going to therapy, and that really helped. I had been going to therapy before, but I was just talking about the people in my class and things like that. It wasn't really that much helpful. It was, but not like, it wasn't the kind of therapy that I needed with my OCD, you know? But I started going to a therapist that really understood OCD more. How I got out of that dark place I was in. It took about 2 years to get better. Those first 2 years, from 2016 to 2018, were really bad because I was pretty much consumed by the thought that I didn't know anything, and it was really hard for me to speak, to talk to people. I dreaded being asked any type of questions about my inner thoughts and my inner anything that I thought, you know. I would dread it so much. But what I did was I simply realized that I had to go through that because I had been postponing the pain. That I realized I had to go through all of that anxiety and all of that pain to really learn to be a humble person, because I was so centered in myself and so convinced that I deserved better, I deserved friends, I deserved a better life, I deserved to feel better, but I wasn't willing to really put on the effort to be better, to feel better about myself. So I had to go through that pain and realize, okay, yeah, it is true that you don't know anything because you have been so focused on other people that you barely studied, you barely developed your character, you barely did anything. So now is the time. It doesn't matter how much time you lost. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter now. That time is gone already, but you still have time left. You're still, your life, that's what matters. So as long as you are aware of the problem, you can solve it, right? So I had to tell myself, okay, it's time to start doing all of the things I didn't do, that I should have done but I couldn't do because I was in my head all the time and I just couldn't. So I started being more compassionate towards myself, telling myself it's okay, you did your best, don't worry, we will start again. So I started reading more, I started consuming more meaningful content, not just random cat pictures or funny videos, Started consuming that content that really made me think, more videos, more TED Talks, podcasts, articles, everything that I could find. Start consuming all the information. And at first it made me anxiety too, because I was like, okay, all this information is overwhelming, because I will have to make my own opinion from this, and I don't know how to do it. And I was like, okay, don't worry about your opinion now, just consume information, just get some ideas into your head, and we will figure that out later. So that's what I did. I just became a student of life, like they say, and I'm still doing that. It's not like my anxiety has disappeared. I still have anxiety, I still have those types of ruminations, I still get worried and uneasy when people ask me about my opinion. I still sometimes want to speak up about certain topics or issues, and I feel I can't because I don't have enough information, or because I don't know if I should use this sentence or this other sentence. I realized that no one really knows anything, that we just keep searching for answers. That's why there's so much information, because there's so many people that need this type of answers, like what's the meaning of life, what to do with your life, what to think about certain topics, how to make sense of X, Y, and Z. Everyone is searching for these types of answers. And the people who don't think about these things, are people that don't really care to grow and to evolve. And now let's move on to the last part of the video, where I will be sharing some of the things that have helped me and the things that haven't helped me. Talking it out. Talking was very helpful, not at first, because at first I had no idea how to articulate my thoughts, and it was really, really hard to speak, like I mentioned. But talking to my therapist and just telling her, my therapist or my mom or a friend, telling her I feel terrible, I don't know where to turn, I'm devastated, please help me, I don't know what to do. That really helped, because I could just let it out. Letting everything out is always helpful. So that's what I did at first. And also when I didn't feel like speaking, I would write, or if I didn't know which words to use and all of that thing, I would just make scribbles or random drawings, random stuff. Whatever that comes out of you, just let it out. Let everything out onto paper or on a video, whatever you feel. Just let everything out. Disclaimer also, if you want to talk about your ruminations and your obsessions, limit the time you spend talking about it, because it's really easy to fall into a trap of speaking about it for so long that it becomes rumination, and you just go in circles repeating the same thing over and over again. So if you're talking it out with a therapist, they have to stop you at some point. But if you're talking with a friend or with a family member, it might be helpful to tell them, hey, stop me if I start going in circles, okay? Please stop me. And they will do it. Distracting myself didn't help me because I just continued to lose time, which led to me feeling more regret because I lost that time, and it was worse. And what's even worse is distracting yourself with social media, because as you probably know and have heard before, social media can be really detrimental to your mental health because of the comparison. When you're in a bad place, you will compare yourself to others. That's completely inevitable, I think. So if you're feeling really bad, don't go on social media. Don't do it. I know it's very easy, and it's a really easy distraction, and it gives you that dopamine feeling if you get like a like or a comment or whatever, but just try to avoid it. Maybe go on YouTube, watch a video, or just read a book, but try to avoid social media if you have a very dark moment or a very low point, because it will make you feel worse. So not being active, that didn't help me either. I wasn't a very active person. I became active like maybe a year ago, so I have always been a very sedentary person who didn't like moving, who pretty much wanted to be laying on the bed all day. That was also influenced by my OCD, because it makes you feel very tired, because expending all that energy in your head gives your body little to no energy left. So it's understandable that you're tired and you just want to lay around all day, but you have to move. You have to do it, because besides the obvious health benefits that it has, it will help your mind so much. It will really help you clear your mind. It will make you feel better. You will feel so much better. You will feel accomplished, because you will know you have done something that's good for you, something that your body needs, and you will feel 10 times better or 100 times better, believe me. And that is all for this video. I'm sure some things I forgot to mention or whatever, so I can always answer your questions elsewhere. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon. Bye bye!